So my name is Isaac. I'm an interpreter here at Britannia, and I'm going to be leading your tour today. I live here in Steveston. I was originally came here from the UK, as I think you might hear from my slight accent. This tour is going to be about an hour long. It's going to involve a fair amount of walking, since we're going to cover pretty much the entire site. But to start with, we are actually going to head a little bit that way and go to the National Historic Site plaque that marks the entrance to the site. So if you'll just follow me. I like to start here by the entrance to the site, just to give a kind of brief overview as to the historical importance of this site. Now, this is a National Historic Site because the buildings that are here tell the story and life of work here on the West Coast, and in particular the story of the salmon canning industry and the boat works and the shipbuilding industry, and kind of generally everything related to fishing and canning and the Fraser River. So before we head inside, what are some things you guys notice about this building? Yeah, go ahead. Pardon me?
Iron.
Iron, okay.
Steel.
Steel, right. Well, it's actually a wooden building. Yeah, just keep moving through so we can get everyone inside. The purpose of drying nets. You can see this is a pretty cavernous space. In fact, it's got about 22-foot high ceilings, which is nearly 7 meters, and it's about 13,000 square feet of floor area. Quickly around here, but we don't spend too much time in this building. But after the tour, if you guys want to continue exploring this site. Was the labor of immigrants to this area. Now, this also meant, European immigrants, but in particular, Japanese and Chinese immigrants were of huge value to the waterfront industries. Number above the door here. Can anyone take a guess as to what they think that number might mean? Yeah, sure. Do you want to go?
The build when it's built.
When it's built.
Or the like address.
Ah, right. So yes, it is kind of the address. So this was a building that was again built by the cannery, and this was number 40 in a whole row of cannery housing. So it's now the only one remaining of that row.
这是桑拿吗？
哦，对，日本人他是很喜欢那个泡澡的。
汗蒸了，这是汗蒸吗？
And so she turned her vegetable plot into this beautiful flower garden that was known all over Steveston. It was kind of quite unusual for a family to have such a luscious, beautiful flower garden. Some things that you guys, what some words you could use to describe this, Marshall? What do you think makes it unique? Any ideas? Grassy? Yeah, sure. That's definitely a word you can use to describe it. That's. Do you think it's a freshwater or saltwater marsh?
Fresh.
Freshwater. Why do you think that?
It's Fraser River.
It's the Fraser River. Well, that's an excellent guess, and it is partially freshwater. Would have been connected by these boardwalks. At the time, we didn't have when kind of Steveston was first founded, we didn't have these dikes or the flood barriers. It was just all kind of marsh. And so it meant that at especially high tides, that marsh would flood and you'd have to have your house raised up on stilts and your sidewalks raised up on stilts as well. The Japanese industry here in Steveston. All right, so Japanese boat builders here in Steveston were renowned for their skill with making boats. Now, these are something called ways, and you'll see another example of them in the shipyard. And it's what the boats would have sat on. So they would have sat on a carriage or cradle that rode along these rails down into the marsh, and that's how they launched the boats into the water. Now, these little stilt houses here are an example of some of those places that they might have lived.
这是 manager 的 house。这个是他的厨房，这些东西其实不是当时的，它只是还原一下。
进不了，太小了。你看，我比他远高呢。
And it gives an example of how the European cannery workers would have lived. Yeah, so up to 4 to 15 men would have been living in a building like this. This is a pretty small example of a men's bunkhouse.
This is Chinese bunkhouse。这一栋现在还有人住了，所以就不参观。
So just to let you know before we go inside, the main exhibit is up some stairs. So if anyone has any mobility issues, please let me know and I'll stay downstairs and give you kind of the information from there. As I was mentioning earlier, about some of the buildings, how they've changed uses and changed 75 to 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stairs? 70 to 100 stairs?
75 to 100 people living in here.
哇，我在学校里看到这个照片过。
是吗？
对啊，在那个 Gold Rush 上。
对啊，华人都是来这边 Go Rush。
Get lost in. Yeah, I lost him.
Coming home from a 12, 14-hour shift at the cannery, having been up to your elbows in fish guts, this would have been a pretty unpleasant place to sleep, and also pretty unhygienic. Diseases like cholera and typhoid. I know which ones you mean. Yeah, no, it's a very similar construction. So these big racks and the big hole in the end of the wall wouldn't have been there. This would have been 2 big canning lines, canning hundreds of thousands of cans of salmon each season. Because Steveston's unique kind of place on the Fraser River and its history, we've had many different cultures from around the world interacting for hundreds of years. Now, that was built in 1969 in the Richmond Boat Builders that we visited earlier as the last boat built there. And it was built by a Japanese shipwright for a Japanese fisherman for his wife's silver anniversary, wedding anniversary. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to ask. But if not, then we've actually ended about 5 minutes early. So you're welcome to have a look around the site and explore any of the buildings that you think you missed or you'd like to see more of.
Yellow cedar forest, maple, red cedar, pine, alder. This is crunchy. 重不重？
这个比这个更轻。
这用来干嘛的？
是哪个？
这些啊？
哪个？这些啊？
这是那个放到船下面嘛？
肉夹好吗？
打结，各种结。是 Stevenson 第一间罐头厂。
Giant machine 是什么啊？好的。
那你不是比他更快吗？你去抓他呀。
哦，好快呀！
那么高。
它好快呀！
哦，这都有啊。
哇，这么大海胆。
对呀。哪里啊？
超级大小。
哪里？台东火鸡。
那明天来买点虾吧，买点活。No no。
You say that you love me, do you really mean that? I'm not shy, but I think you do. I say that I love you, do I really mean that? I'm not shy, but I think I do. All we do is fight, fight, fight till the nighttime time, and we're sick and tired of it. All you do is whine, whine, whine while I sigh, 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 and we're sick and tired of it. But we both stay till the sunrise, 'cause we'll never leave each other's side, no.